Hello. Do I got everything on? I like to check because I'm not 100% sure. So we got sound. Eric is here and First Last is here. Hello. Thanks very much for coming in, folks. Hi, Eric. Hi, First Last. And First Last says, glad I can make it for the pink foam. Thanks very much. I think this is going to be a lot of fun because that's what I've been doing all week. I have been editing video and, I'll go back to this little thing. That's like the thumbnail. And I've never put my face in a thumbnail. I'm not sure that I should have, but it's there. And so it's been all about looking at this like 8 months ago, which is pretty neat, looking at how I thought about stuff and drawing stuff. I mean, there's some stuff that I was like, I don't remember doing that. And it's kind of cool. So I'm really having a great time. Hey, Martin, missed a few, but I'm back for the evening to Huffman's How-Tos. I'll be working on a 144th Tomcat, experimenting with the ink weathering technique Chris Cyber shows. Cheers from Holland. Wonderful. Very, very cool, Martin. One of the things that I picked up about using ink is using a fountain pen. Just using a fountain pen to load up on ink, like a large style fountain nib, tip, whatever. And you load up on ink and then you just put that right in the, the panel line on the aircraft and it just flows right into it. It's just amazing. And of course the nib is so tiny that it's not going out. So I don't know Chris Sieber's technique, but that's just the one that I use. And I think it works great. So very, very cool. Thanks very much, Martin. And I'd love to see how it goes. Like to see how that works. So thanks very much. So again, so this is the beginning of working on long form videos on how I built the diorama, my World War I trench diorama. And I think that it's something that I remembered not going into planning. So as I'm going back and looking at it, not having this plan to reference, all along, and going back and looking and finding how I did things and even the sequence and order and the way I did things, I think for me at least is really fascinating. I kind of liken it to going back and rediscovering something that you know a little bit about, like you've done the research, like an archaeologist maybe. You've done the reading, you've done the research, and then you get out in the field and you do the digging and you find out. I don't know. I'm just weird that way, and I like archaeology, and I think that's kind of fun. So anyway, that's kind of what I've been doing this week. Martin says it's more of a pre-shade marble technique. Oh, very cool. I'd love to see that. John is here. Hello, John. Thanks very much for coming in. It's great to see you, and welcome to everybody. And I kind of try to roll right into this, but I also love saying hi to folks that I don't maybe get to see, or talk to through the week. And some of you I've had texts with and stuff like that, which is really fun. But yeah, some folks I haven't talked to in a week. So thanks very much. And it's really nice to see you here. So I've got a video coming out on Tuesday about the build of this. And as I produce these long form videos, what I'm doing is I am doing it in sequence of the build. On every single week of this 8-month build, what I did was I chronicled by taking pictures and video of the build. And so what I plan on is taking each of those steps, not week by week. I don't want to bore you with 8 months of videos, full-length videos on this. I don't know that there's that much interesting content, but I do want to show you the major things to accomplish this. Some of the things that I went through and learned in doing it, because that's the fun thing I think about building anything really. Be it a diorama or a painting. And I say painting because Link just showed up. Hello, Link. Hi, Bill. Nice to see you. Thanks very much, Link. And I say that because his family are painters. And so I wanted to mention that, Link. But so, yeah, when you're trying to come up with these things, being creative and then going back and seeing how you did this stuff, all the major things that went to complete it, I want to film. I want to bring that to you. The first major thing that I typically do on a diorama, as you would guess, is the pink foam. I've talked about it. Last week we had some questions about it. So today we'll do a live demonstration of some of those techniques. I've just got like a little, what you call a coupon piece. I know that Eric is familiar with that term. A coupon piece in manufacturing is a test piece. And so you take the material you're going to use, you take all the aspects that are going to go into the final production part, and then you make everything small so you can see how things come out. So that's what this is. I've got my little coupon piece ready to do a demo on, and I'm going to show you the process after carving and after shaping, because that's really what the conclusion of the video is about this week, the long form video. When I start to do the diorama, I want to do something like you maybe are familiar with building a model. And that is, you build the model either partially or in components or sections or whatever, and then you prime it. That kind of marks the end of the building phase of it, not the weathering, not the painting, not the, damage if you're going to do damage, something like that. But it marks the end of a certain phase. Well, I have the same thing in diorama building, and that is when I've got the diorama's basic shape done, then I will place sanded grout, and I've got my example here. This is the Polyblend sanded grout that I use. This is Haystack. You can get it in many different colors, but this is the same kind of grout that you use on tiles for a countertop, for whatever, in your home. So available at a home center store. Was not very expensive. I believe it was under $15. I could be wrong. I hate to say that, because what if that just goes bonkers and people are like, but anyway, at the time I bought it, I believe it's under $15. By putting that on, that creates basically a starting point or a protective surface so that I can do all work on the diorama after that. So I think it's a major part of building a diorama, and one to get really understood, because there's a couple of things that you can do depending on what you want your diorama to be. So next week's video is all about that, and today we'll do the live demo of it. The other thing we're going to look at is the actual video that is going to be coming out next Tuesday. I have like a pre-screen, version of it. It's not done. It's not fully edited, and I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I want to go in and utilize and show you some of the things that were fun, because it is video from 8 months ago of doing the top and the trench portions of the diorama. So we're going to look at that. It's all loaded up and ready to go. So I just want to kind of take some comments, and then we'll probably dive right into that. Hey, Scott is here. Hello. Howdy, everybody. Got caught up in doing my taxes. This is much more fun. Absolutely. You don't want to do your taxes while you're modeling. Yeah, you could cut yourself and say, I can't get back to my taxes. So yeah, taxes are no fun. Link, do you use rattle cans or your spray booth? I need a spray booth, but I'm wondering if it can handle cans. That's a really good question, Link. I would say no. Number one, if you could maybe plumb it through a window. Mine's not, by the way. And that's a really good point. My spray booth, this is one that's very commonly available. It's a little older. I think there are newer ones, maybe better designs. It's not a bad design. It's basically trying to filter out the heavy paint, but it doesn't do really much for fumes. So if you have that thing plumbed going out of a window, yeah, it could probably work just fine. It's not to say you're not going to smell it, but the majority of it will go in there, probably in a small can. And the reason I say a small can is the larger cans, like I have some that are like they're like 2 times the paint. So, like more paint comes out. That might be a little bit overloading for that. The large cans that say the 2X or whatever, so you can just hit it one time and you're supposed to get, a full coat. I use those, but I try to use them outside. I do want to build, and I've got it in my noggin up here, a new spray booth that will handle that and is plumbed outside. And like a lot of people, well, not like a lot of people, but like some people, I'm going to use a dryer vent. So I bought a dryer vent attachment, that comes out of your the dryer from your house or your apartment. I bought one of those, and I'm going to drill through the outside of the shop. You must have a very understanding partner to be able to do that. I certainly do. Plus, it's also not the house. This is my shop, so it's easier for me to do that. I don't want to move the location really of this because I really like the convenience of be able to just basically swivel around, do a little painting, and I'm right here. I had the thought of moving my paint booth to a window. Excuse me, I'm going to dry, and that's going to be tragic. But I don't think I want to do that. I don't want to move it away from me. So if you're like me and you can plumb it outside, I would say that would be okay, and this would work. But there may be newer ones that have stronger fans. What you want to look at CFM, which is the cubic feet per minute, I believe. And the higher the CFM means the more air that it's pushing through to evacuate it. Excuse me. And that's really important when you're thinking about this, because you really want to move that air. And that's what I'm going to concentrate on is getting more CFM, more fan power to move that air through there when I build my own. So, but great. Thank you very much for the question. I think it's fine, which it's designed for airbrushes, but maybe not rattle cans. Okay. So, excuse me. Before I go into a coughing fit, I am going to show you this video. So, excuse me. I've got it queued up to look at a part where it goes into where I'm like starting to show the sanded grout and stuff like that. And then I'm just going to narrate along if I can. Gosh, if I can continue talking. Give me a second. So this is the video. Pardon me. This is a lower, like a lower HD. It's like 720, just so it would go on this. And this is what's coming out, part of what's coming out on Tuesday. So let's go over here and see what we got. Okay, so I just wanted to say about this, the sanded grout and Mod Podge, I think for me personally, excuse me, is something that I like because I've had the opportunity to use it long enough and get familiar with it and understand its properties. And I think that's a really big part of any materials you're going to use in diorama building. Try to find something that is inexpensive so you can use a lot of it and get used to its properties. This is so, and again, readily available. So let's go back to play. I think it is playing. Yeah, it's playing. It's just like slow. So the first thing that I think about, what in the blazes? It's playing, but it's not going nowhere. It's the Mod Podge soaking. Sorry about this, folks. This is just like all it was not working. There we go. So we start with the Mod Podge, and we're going to do this live, but I just wanted to show you in the video. When I was doing the diorama here and starting this part of it, you'll notice that you may have seen other people put down Mod Podge like I'm doing here. This is the base where the two sides of the diorama are going to rest. And you can see I'm leaving those free. You can do that because it's only going to stick to the Mod Podge. It won't stick to the pink without the Mod Podge if you're careful. Everybody did this kind of activity as a kid, so it shouldn't be too hard. But I just wanted to kind of show it here in, as I was doing it for the diorama. As I get all this on here and it's nice and even again, I think it's important that you have enough on. What I'm doing now is I'm taking the sanded grout and dusting it on. Now, this part of it right here, you can see it's dusted on everything, but then you can see the darker areas and the lighter areas. And I think this is a big thing that we're going to look at today. When you first put that sanded grout on the Mod Podge itself, what you want to happen is the sanded grout to be stuck to the Mod Podge. But ultimately what happens, which is the best thing, is that you want the Mod Podge to soak up into the parts of the sanded grout that are dry. The parts that look wet, yeah, that Mod Podges get there. It's the dry stuff that's not. So when you're doing this and you've got your pattern or you've got your stuff laid down, then you need to use another technique, which is adding a little bit of water. Mine is water mixed with alcohol, or you can go straight alcohol. That reduces the surface tension and allows that to get up all through the sanded grout you've put on there. Now we're going to look at this live again, but I just figured I'd show you that and talk about it in here. So here I'm talking about the same thing. I put it on. I'm trying to see if there's anything interesting here. I'm done with that. And then we go to these. Here we go. So now this is one thing I wanted to talk about is, what am I doing? I have no idea. Sorry. This is the point that I'm trying to get to today. This is the primer. Remember earlier I said, when you're working on your model, you get to into the build part and then you primer it. And just like the vehicle that's on there, that's exactly where I want to get to. Because what that allows me to do is start working with the diorama. That gives me the visual indication of what it's going to look like. If I left it all pink, foam, or whatever, it doesn't really represent what I'm trying to work with. There's another reason that I like to do this primer coat. It protects the design that I've made. And so now we're going to start looking at the live demo, and I'm going to explain what I mean about, protecting, this surface that I've carved or I've shaped. Okay. So I need to go over here and reset my camera. Happens every time just because it only goes for like 20 minutes for some odd reason. But I'm going to get that set there and we're going to go to the top down. And I think you'll like this. Is that my top down? That's my top down. There we go. So, and I'm going to turn this off because I don't want you looking in my ear. Here is a piece of pink foam, and we're going to look at the bottom because I want you to see what the pink foam looks like when you first get it. This is a non-permeable surface, okay? Non-permeable means nothing's going to get through it. Everything is going to stick to the surface of it. And that's fine with certain glues and stuff like that. Because what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this Mod Podge to, fix the sanded grout to it. The Mod Podge will work okay here, but there is the possibility, because it is a PVA glue, that it could flake off. So what I like to do is I like to either scuff, sand, or rough up the surface like this. Now, when I'm doing my surface, what I'm thinking about is like that, trying to rough it or scuff it up. But the other thing I'm thinking about is carving it and carving texture. By carving texture into it, I can save time, because you'll see some people, they will build up and they'll use the pink foam just almost like a filler, right? And let me go back to me. What I mean by that is I've seen people do kind of this technique where you've got just a bunch of pieces of pink foam, and it's all a bunch of just a ramble of pieces, and maybe even some, newspaper or something, I don't know, stuffed in there to kind of get a general shape, and then they'll put plaster over it, right? Have you seen that? And that can work just fine. But if you have the ability to carve it and shape it, that's what I prefer to do. And so it's just a different technique. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to put the shape or the design of what I'm doing with my diorama right onto the pink foam. Because I'm putting on the pink foam, and pink foam is soft, look what happens if I squeeze it, right? It is somewhat soft. I dented it there. It's not bad. It kind of even springs back a little bit. But if I don't kind of seal that surface out of after carving it, then it's not as hard of a surface as that. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I mean. Let's go back over here. And well, actually, I can do this one here. So what I use is this. After carving, and I need to talk more about carving, but after carving, what I do is I take a hot gun and I'll use the hot gun over it. Now, what the hot gun does is, and I'm going to do that, but I don't want to do it yet because I have to talk about carving. I'm jumping around too much. But what that hot gun does is it like takes this like almost porous surface, and it puts like a coating on it because it melts it, almost like this. But it's a little harder than this because when you're melting this with that, it makes maybe a little bit thicker. And that coat, that kind of melting of the surface that you've already carved is much harder than this surface. So it's not going to dent. I like it because it holds the design elements that I've done. You know, it's a choice, but I think it works. So before I go back over here and do the melting, I do want to talk about the bit that I use for carving. And I'll show you over here on the top down in a second. This is a Kutzall, Kutzall, Kutzall bit. It is a flame bit. It's a burnisher, barb, something like that. And it's meant for carving. Well, the other thing that's great about this Kutzall bit is it's for high-speed carving. And if it does ever get gummed up, then what you can use is like a torch and burn anything that's in it. And mine's got a little bit of gum in it. So let's look at the top down real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here is my Kutzall bit. And if you can see, I can even try to tighten this up. I believe you can see here that in there, well, let's hope you can see. There we go. Those little burrs in there will get a little bit kind of impacted with some of the pink foam that I use it on. But the nice thing is I can take this and I can take a torch and burn that stuff away. And this thing is great for carving. Okay, so that's what I like to use. It's my primary carving tool for when I'm shaping my foam. And then, like I said, I go to the hot gun. So I'm going to show you what the hot gun does, and we're going to do that close up too. So here is the surface of this, and I really want you to see what happens to the fuzz and the surface when I hit it with the heat gun here. Can you kind of see that? I hope so. Because what it does is it really hardens that surface. It takes all that fuzziness and kind of seals the surface. Now, there's another seal that we're going to put on this surface as we go. And I think that's really important because that's the Mod Podge. But this is going to make that surface so it's not so hard. It's not so easy to kind of, you know, damage as you're working with it. So that's what I do with my foam on the way to, you know, putting this sanded grout on it. And so that's the next step. So sanded grout just comes in a big box. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to put it in this little jar. Let's go to the other camera. So this is just a little jar, makes it a lot easier to work with. And the little jar helps me to get just a little dusting. I've talked about this before, and basically I'm going to use either a nylon or even like a dress sock. And that's what I'm going to use, just one of my old dress socks from my suits. So I put that over here, and when I pull that tight, and we're going to look at the top down, when I pull that tight, you can, it's not really showing up all that great, but you can see through there, and it's so fine that it's going to allow just a dusting of that to come through. And it's that dusting that I want. That's my primer coat. That is going to go ahead and seal up the surface of my pink foam and give me a terrain that looks like terrain. It looks like dirt. And then I can do whatever I want with it after the fact, but that's my first part. Okay. So let's do the top down, and I'm going to kind of bring this out a little bit. I think it's going to be a little easier to see what I'm actually doing. as I dust this. So I've got that prepared. I like to use matte Mod Podge. And the matte's really important because when it dries, if you see it, it's not going to reflect. That reflection is going to kill. Anytime you see something in the ground reflecting, what do? You think there's something there that's not natural. You go look for it. So we don't want any reflections coming from the ground. So I'm just taking a little bit of Mod Podge. And for this, I'm going to use it full strength. I use Mod Podge a lot, not full strength, like either diluted either 50-50 or diluted like 25% Mod Podge if I'm trying to put it through a spray gun. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in patterns because I think that when I'm doing this, you can see that if let's say this is a miniature and there's going to be a little trail coming up here just for giggles here. And so we want to do something different with the trail. Maybe it's rocks or something. So I just want you to see that how I keep it from getting everywhere. And I know everybody can figure that out on their own, but it might look cooler by doing it that way. So I put it on here. Now, I've seen people just slop this stuff on. I'm actually trying to be quite careful. I don't want it on the edges. There are things that I'm going to do to the edge of my diorama later on that I want to be quite careful about not getting it over there. Yeah, you can clean it up afterwards, but it's kind of a pain. So why mess with it? So now that I've got that on there, and you'll notice, look here, I got a little bit more there, a little bit less here. That will show through in your dusting after you dust this. So I'm just going to take this, I'm pulling this real tight over there, and I'm just doing that. What's happening is just putting a little, like a fine dusting. And that's what I want on this first application. The first application is just the primer, and all other applications after that will be about, building up any kind of actual soil after actual terrain. So after I do that, I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes. The sitting for a few minutes is the part where I'm allowing the Mod Podge itself to kind of come up through the sanded grout and kind of grab hold of it, okay? And then I can make a decision at the end of this, after I've let it sit for a little bit. I can look at it and say, I like that. I don't mind if a little bit comes off. It's totally fine. And then I could actually just tap it, dust it off, and then I'm done. That's okay. The other thing is if I want to keep the majority of what I have on there over the dusted stuff is I'll spray it first. By spraying it though, it could activate the stuff that's not, you know what I'm saying? So you just have to make those decisions. It's completely up to you because you can get that stuff off that you don't have the Mod Podge on that just gets hit with the alcohol and water. It just comes off pretty easy, but it's kind of a pain. So I'm going to tap it off, but we're going to look at it here and see what it's done as it sat there for a little bit. So here it's a little bit darker. Here it's a little bit lighter. The darker is where the Mod Podges come up through it. The lighter part is the pink. There's no Mod Podge. When you see that, you know that you're grabbing that Mod Podge and it's okay to knock off the excess. And I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to use. I'll use my big deal here. It's okay to do that now because you see it go through there. So I'm going to take this, tap it just like that, and look. So it's very nice. It works very cleanly. And that is my number one thing that got me into dioramas. And by getting into dioramas, I mean, when I saw Andy's Hobby Headquarters technique for adding that soil and sanded grout, and then making it look like soil and natural terrain, that was that thing, that was that spark that allowed me to understand the technique that I could build upon. I didn't learn everything that I know through Andy's Hobby Headquarters. I learned a lot, but it was that one spark that answered that one question that was hanging me personally up from building dioramas. So I think why I want to do these longer videos is partially because I want to show you all the stuff that I did on this. And like I said, I learned a lot of cool stuff, and I think it would be fun to share it. But I would love to be able to be, one of the videos that comes out of this, because there will be multiple, one of those sparks gets you over that one hump. Maybe it's not just doing dioramas, but maybe it's like making one thing that you haven't done yet in a diorama. Or it's like, I haven't really taken my lighting to that degree, or haven't really tried to build a story into my diorama yet. I've only been doing like maybe a base for a vehicle, or, something like that. So that's, one of the big motivators of me doing all of this, frankly, is to show, my path in learning, but also to share, because that's how I learned. That's where that stuff came for me. And that's a lot of fun. It feels like I'm honestly giving back. And that's a really fun feeling. So that's what the videos are going to be about. I want to make sure, I think we got everybody's questions. Awesome. But if you do have questions about the sanded grout, I want you to ask them now. So I'm going to go back to the top down and show you adding that water, or I use water and alcohol, but sometimes you just use alcohol. And I think that's what I have here. So let's take a look. So here it's sat now for a good little bit, and I've got a little spray bottle, and this is just isopropyl alcohol. And what that will do is it'll make sure that everything that's on there right now is going to stay. If I do not use this, it's okay. But when this completely dries, some of the surface stuff could just kind of dust off. And I don't necessarily want that. So that's what this will do. Now, in another example that we're going to look at after this, on this one, this is absolutely necessary to get like thicker bits of it to stick to this. And so we're going to look at that next. But here, I'm just going to take a little bit of it and spray just like that. And, it's just to wet it. And here's a really good thing to remember. If I get too much moisture on this, even if it's alcohol, which is going to, obviously evaporate very quickly. But if I get too much on this, this will turn muddy and smooth. And we don't want a smooth terrain. We don't want a smooth distance. I mean, if you're doing mud, obviously. But typically you want your terrain to be a little bit rough, right? And if I put any liquid on here after this, too much, it'll turn into mud. So that's why I just use a little bit of this. So we're going to let that dry. And now we're going to go to this. Now, this is another one that I've used multiple times. So there it's just, it's on a board. And here's the pink foam back here. And it's just to demonstrate what you can do with the sanded grout by not using it lightly. What can you physically do with this stuff? And I think it's great because it's very versatile. So when I'm or when I'm thinking about, I'm going to try to see which is the best angle. I think that's not a bad angle, because I'll do some stuff here. When I talk about after doing my primer coat, because that's my primer coat, what I talk about is then starting to build up, getting some definition, getting a little bit more variance in the surface of your diorama, because I think that adds interest. Anytime I can build in a something that's going to give a shadow, and if we look like this, you can see there are plenty of shadows on this. Anytime you can build in a shadow or rough terrain, you're building interest. You're building interest for the eye. So I can use this in a very different way. Well, not a very different way, but a little bit of a different way, I guess, to add some of that interest. So this, you remember I said I use Mod Podge in multiple forms. Well, this is my mix. I'm shaking it up here. This is my mix of Mod Podge and water. It's just a little bit lighter, and it allows me to do things on a surface like this and build up just a little bit of a detail. So I'll take a little bit first, because I do want to start with a wet surface. I don't want to just like the other time we put some down, I do want to start with a wet surface. But there I've kind of filled in this little low area. Now I can take some of the sanded grout. This is just a little scoop. And I want to put it around the edge of this because I want to make this more of like, you know, a depression. So I'm just kind of coming around the sides. Okay. Now this is where your alcohol is super important, because if I try, and we'll show you what happens, if I try to put this Mod Podge in water just on the regular sanded grout, what's going to happen is it's going to roll right off. That's the surface tension, okay? See, it just rolled right off. It went down there, but it just rolled right off here. Well, this is what's going to help that, is by hitting this with the alcohol, breaking that surface tension. Now I can take just little tiny drops and look, it'll stay right there and it'll soak right in. And that's how we build up little details in the diorama and get a little bit more visual interest. And I'll literally just go in and do this time and time again and build up. Now, if you go too thick, what you can do is create voids of dry, sanded grout. You probably don't want to do that, but it is really easy to work with to build accents. Now, if I get a little too much in there, I can just go back in here and wick it away. And I don't know about you, but I use way too many Q-tips. But I can wick that stuff away real easily. And there I've added some real nice shadow, some subtle details that'll actually really enhance your diorama. Now that I've got that little wet spot, if I want to, I can take and just sprinkle a little bit. And there we have a nice terrain. So that's the thing about this. You know, when you're using a material or something a lot, you think of different ways of using. You think of different applications for it that I think are going to make, number one, your stuff unique because you thought of it. You know, this is your idea. Nobody else is doing this, and it's going to really bring some interest to what you're doing. If everybody's using the same thing, are we going to get always the same result? No. But if you vary your materials, I think you can get some differences in what you do and what other people do. And when you get more familiar with, like I keep kind of hammering into your head here, being familiar with your materials and experimenting with them, it's going to give you more options to use it. And then it's become more valuable to you. You know, the cost goes down if you want to go into kind of financial terms. The cost goes down for this raw material, this sanded grout, for every use that I can find for it. You know, if you think of it in those terms, because if I can replace anything that I have to buy that's commercially sold for the kind of things that I do, boy, I'm thrilled. If it can perform the same thing. And here's a cautionary tale. This is kind of the tangents that I always go on. The dry or the paper clay, you know, the Sculpey clay that I used to do the sandbags on here. Well, I've used it for years, and I've even done sandbags with it, limited. But I noticed on this diorama specifically, it shrunk dramatically. Now, in the other stuff that I did, it really, because it wasn't like this ordered thing and it wasn't up against, the shrinkage didn't really occur to me, and it wasn't affecting what I was using it on previously. But with sandbags, I did find that the shrinkage of that Sculpey I didn't like. So I had to go back to milliput. So now the reason this story will come to a good conclusion, I'm sure. The reason I went to the Sculpey was it was so much more inexpensive than milliput. Milliput is pretty expensive, frankly, for me at least. And the Sculpey was dramatically more, much less. So it still has a use, right? But it's not as good as milliput for that application. So that's what I'm saying. if I can find more applications for the Sculpey, I can make it more valuable for the milliput. Conversely, the same thing for the sanded grout. If I don't have to buy something from a manufacturer that's a little bit more expensive, it's good, it's consistent, it's always the same thing. That's a plus about buying from a specific manufacturer. And I like that. But that higher cost, to me at least, is sometimes off-putting. I want to do this on a large scale. So when I buy something that's made for maybe producing a base, like somebody might do, I have to buy 15 cans of something, because I make big stuff. So my situation may be, a little bit weighed on the balance in that regard as well. Okay, so that is, it's going to be really short show because that's really all I had. I wanted to show you the preview, and showing you the movie preview, I was going to do more, but it just didn't seem to going very well. I don't know what's happening with the player, but it doesn't want to play very well. I was going to show you a little bit more because I did go quite a bit in depth about my Proxon in the video that's coming out on Tuesday. And I think that's really fun because the Proxon has and this is the Proxon wire cutter table that I've had for, I don't know, 5 years now. And it's really a neat piece of gear. It works wonderfully. I use it on anything that I'm doing with pink foam. And I wanted to show you that today, but the video is not playing quite right. And so I apologize for that. But it will be in the video next Tuesday. And I show you some things about it and how to adjust it and how to, work with it and the temperatures to use on the pink foam and stuff like that. And I think that's going to be very interesting. I hope it's very interesting because it's helped me produce some of the stuff that I do with pink foam much more easily. From cutting it to shaping it to sizing it to just working with pink foam, that wire cutter specifically has been a really great tool purchase for me. Sometimes, because I'm a tool nut, I will buy a tool and it won't quite live up to its expectations. I'll buy that tool thinking it'll be able to do this and maybe this or that. And it maybe only does one of those things that I had in mind. That's my expectation. That's not maybe necessarily what the tool is for or even built for, but that's my expectation. In this instance, I think the Proxon it's surpassed my expectations. And that is a really nice thing about a tool, especially somebody who loves tools. So yeah, I'm going to go pretty deep into it, and I'm going to talk about it quite a bit in the video on Tuesday and show you, if you're interested in that kind of thing, why I think it's even a better tool than some of the other tools I have for cutting pink foam. Because you can cut pink foam with a knife, you can cut it a myriad of ways. But the effects of cutting pink foam are a lot. The fuzz that comes off this pink foam and shaping and stuff like that, I think you have to be very cautious of. I would not recommend anyone to go into pink foam unless you had in a controlled environment. I personally wouldn't allow in our house pink foam on the kitchen table, which is, fun because some people do their modeling there, but it's so disruptive and stuff like that. Yeah, it's probably not a great idea. So I got a couple of questions here. I want to make sure that I get them. Let me see. Link. John says, how thick can you go with grout before it cracks and shrinks? Really good question. I think it's about a 1/4 inch. It happened on here without me doing any kind of, because there's like a gesso. It's like a crackle gesso. And that's about a 1/4 inch thick. And I looked at that the last time we used this little model, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool because it did crack. And Martin Drayton did that really, really great. It was the Pink Panther build of the Land Rover in North Africa. And he did that cracked gesso base. Came out really, really cool. So yeah, I've not done that, but this will crack a little bit. It was about a 1/4 inch thick. I did notice that. but I really want to try that cracking gesso. That is like a paint product. I don't know. I think it's acrylic. I've seen other people talk about it, use it, blah, blah, blah. I really want to try it, and I haven't done it because I think dry riverbeds, dry um, lake beds, pond beds, stuff like that is really cool. Thanks very much, John. Can you use regular backyard dirt instead of the grout, or does the grout have properties that dirt doesn't? Yeah, it certainly does. Thanks very much. Great question, Scott. So one of the properties of the grout is it basically has cement in it. So there's cement in the grout. So when it dries, you've got, a hard cement surface. I'm not saying you can't get a close to hard surface with using dirt and Mod Podge, but I would say it's got to be super dry, number one. So bring in some stuff during the summer, or bring it in and allow it to dry. So it's super dry. Filter it. So just like I did on this container, I filter it because there's an awful lot of stuff in dirt. And dirt, there's a lot of worm poop in dirt, and you can actually see it when you filter it. But you want to kind of get those impurities out of there. You don't want any biology in your diorama. If you put sticks and grasses and stuff that's dirty, or not dirty, but moist and has stuff in it, has the possibility of introducing a mold or a mildew or something into your diorama. So I'm very cautious about bringing stuff in. I absolutely do it though, because every piece of sand, every little pebble, all of that kind of stuff, I get out in my yard. So yeah, but there's a process of cleaning it, and cleaning dirt is a little bit harder. Certainly can be done. But yeah, I would filter it. I would try to get everything out of it. You don't really want any biology in there. And make sure it's super dry when you're applying it. And yeah, I think you could. The thing that it won't do is the cement part. Yeah, you got the cement. And that's a big deal. But the nice thing is gosh, it's again, super affordable and very readily available. You can get it in black, because a lot of people like to use black as a primer. So they're used to having black on their model and stuff like that. Well, if you want to do black on your diorama, get black grout. I've kind of thought about it. I think it would be kind of cool, to have a black grout to throw down. I haven't done it, but yeah, you can get all shades of stuff. I just use haystack because I want a really neutral color that I could actually use in a diorama even without color. So anything I add to it is really adding to that color. So that's why I went with haystack, that specific color. I think there's sand and yeah, myriad of colors. But yeah, that's, I think, the cautions I would use about using dirt out of the yard. I am no grout expert, but that does stuff come in different sizes and other characteristics that are relevant to a modeler. Yeah, certainly. Number one, the sanded grout, if I'm straining it through here, I'm not letting the sand come through. So that's really just the grout. And the grout is like a cement. Well, it is cement, and there's pigment and there's other things in there. There are polymers in there that mixed with water, the polymers set up and allow the grout to have a solid surface. But even when you do tile and you use grout, you can't just do the grout and leave it. You've got to seal the grout, because the grout, when it dries, is still it's still porous. Water can leach through it. Chemicals can leach through it. And chemicals are the big things that I'm trying to do with utilizing the Mod Podge in putting this on. Because honestly, you could do this entire process with water. Okay, it'd be hard, but you could. And the thing that it wouldn't provide is the fact that when the Mod Podge dries with the grout, it also creates a seal so that the plastic, not the plastic, but the foam underneath it won't get touched if you put like a solvent on top of it. So that's the other thing. If I put any kind of a solvent, if I put like CA glue on the pink foam, yeah, it just melts it. It'll eventually stop. It's not like aliens, going through the bridge deck or anything, but it does melt a pretty good hole in there. When you put Mod Podge on there, the Mod Podge, the PVA glue, that creates an impervious seal, and the PVA glue, when dry, completely dry, is not completely impervious to, let's say, like lacquer thinner or something like that. But anything that's like in a lacquer paint and stuff like that, I use enamel washes, I use paints and stuff like that. I use just a thinner on this, and it's safe. It doesn't get through to the pink foam, and it doesn't melt the pink foam. If I didn't have the Mod Podge in there, it would. It'd go right through. And so that's one of the other reasons that I want to use the Mod Podge with the sanded grout and not just that. So that's, I think, one of the good characteristics of the sanded grout, but also mixing it with the Mod Podge gives you a surface that you wouldn't be able to get to with dirt. Is that better? I hope so. And I certainly hope I answered your question, Martin and Scott. John, hey, John, how's it going? I didn't see you earlier. Thanks very much for coming in. John says, wet sand the IPA, but don't soak in. Wet sand with IPA, but don't soak in. Then drip diluted mix of water and PVA glue on top. IPA should remove the surface tension. Allow that. Yeah, exactly. That's what we should. You're exactly right, John. And, excuse me. I talk and then I my throat gets dry, and then I cough and I look like an idiot. So this is for you, really. Okay, so yeah, I've also tried it. Now, if you don't have isopropyl alcohol, that's what IPA is that John's saying, and I think everybody probably got that. But if you don't have isopropyl alcohol, soap, regular dish soap. I use a little bit of that sometimes in my water for my brush. And that also helps break surface tension. What that does by leaving it a little bit of soap on your diorama, I don't know. It's never really hurt anything. I don't use it a lot because I have alcohol, but I have used it, and it's not been a big deal. So when the soap dries, it just dries. So yeah, and it's not like a whole bunch of soap. But that is one thing you can use if you don't have, isopropyl alcohol. If you're going to have sand as base, yeah, there you go. So it's the same thing, right? If you're just using sand, it's the same thing. And it just doesn't have the cement part to it. So it probably wouldn't get as strong, And then Scott says, yes, thank you. Well, great. I'm glad that did it. So thanks very much, folks. Yeah, I'm having a great time. I do want to talk a little bit more about these videos. So I'm doing a long form video of the whole 8-month build. It's not going to be one video. I'm trying to do it in major groups of how I built it, and I'm also trying to do it in order of build to show you. It might be better if I did skip around and show you all of one subject and stuff, but that's honestly not how it went. And I think it might be interesting to show you how and what it takes to build this stuff. They are going to be technical. I hope I'm not going to lose anybody. I'm going to try to get as technical as I can. I looked up PVA, what is it? Polyacetate. See, I don't even know what it is now. But I had to look up all that stuff. I do want to give you as much facts I can in these videos and stuff. And I am trying to get them out every Tuesday. So that is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a big challenge. I haven't done a weekly full long form video in a long time because it is so difficult. It's very, for me at least, my editing style or whatever the heck it is. It just takes a long time to edit video. So I'm getting back into that, and I think it's going to be fun. The shorts that I used to do every day, I was going to, reduce the number of shorts that I do, but I don't know if that's great or bad or good or long or whatever. I know that the views to my channel have plummeted after I stopped doing a video every day. It's just this last week. So I might go back with my daily videos, but I honestly fear I don't have anything to show you on a daily basis because I'm not building. I mean, I'm editing. I'm literally editing in the office, and it's fun. I enjoy the heck out of it, and I love, putting these videos together for you. But I mean, I also I have to get something on the channel that folks want to see, and for almost a year now it's been a daily short. So yeah, I'm kind of juggling that and trying to figure out what I'm going to do, because I don't want to just throw up fluff that doesn't mean anything. I honestly want to put a video out there that's meaningful and enjoyable, and you'll learn something hopefully from it. So yeah, I am struggling with this little one, but I am very excited about these long form videos. They are really fun to make, but they just take forever. They're, I want to be able to get like people like Mr. Rick Lawler, right? Rick Lawler does a weekly video. I think they're weekly, and maybe not every single week, but he edits and does it on a weekly thing. And man, I got to tell you, it's grueling. I've done it. I did it for my very first year on YouTube, and it's absolutely grueling. It was during COVID, and I believe it was easier then because, number one, you didn't have all that extraneous stuff going on. Everybody was all shut down. Everybody was all hunkered down at home and stuff like that. And so you didn't have a lot of external things to do. The time of your day was the time of your day. You didn't have to split it with anybody else that was trying to take your time from you. I did that for a year, and it was ridiculous. It's doable. Obviously, lots of people do it, but it's very grueling to do a build and do a full long form video every week. I don't know. We'll see. I do want to get there. That's the goal, but I don't know if I'm there yet. So this format, I think, is going to be fun. I hope you learn from it. And I really hope that when you see it, the final video, you can give me some feedback. If you choose to watch it, give me some feedback. Say, hey, this is stupid. Don't do this. And I won't. I'm not going to change the way I make videos, but so far as content, I do want to get stuff out that, folks want to see, and it's interesting. So that is about all I think I got today, folks. I think I said that 45 minutes ago, but thank you very much for coming in. It was a lot of fun. I am looking forward to the weekend. It's going to be a super busy weekend. I've got a friend coming over tomorrow, and we're going to build together. And then on Monday, I'm going to go see a friend east of the mountains, which is going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Oh, I got something else. Some other people talking. Have you seen Night Shift? Wait, hold on. The shorts you can do. I'm trying to get to the one that I saw. Okay, John says, looking forward to them. Awesome, very much. Thank you very much, John. And then John says, the shorts you can still do slides of bits you have done. Your library is only getting bigger. Yeah, that's a fair point. Here's the other thing, and thank you, John. One of the things that I want to accomplish in making these new videos is titling them and creating them so you can find them on my channel. I went back and somebody said, hey, have you ever done this? I'm like, yeah, sure, I did that. I did in this video. And they're like, well, send me the link. I'm like, sure. It took me like 25 minutes to find the video on my own channel. So that's really dumb. I need to, fix, my hair looks weird. I need to fix that. I need to make it so that if you're looking for something, it's a lot easier to find. And I do want it to be a place where you can go, because that's what I love about my inspirations, is when I want to go back and say, I haven't seen that video in a long time. There's this like little one thing that I had a question on, and I can go back and I can find that person's video that is so inspiring to me, and I can find it relatively quickly. Well, I'd sure like to have that on my channel, because it's not now. I look at my channel and I just see, I really need to get my channel kind of, settled in that way. So these videos, I'm trying to like the descriptions and the category thing just make it easy to find if you ever want to find it on the channel. So that's part of what I'm going to be doing. Martin says, have you seen Night Shift changing his format a bit, Bill? He got stressed out of the pressure of having to put out content all the time. I did. I sure did. That was a couple months ago. And I love Night Shift because Night Shift is one of those people that was, I think, a profound, like how I did painting more than dioramas. The dioramas were like Luke Towan and certainly Andy Klein of Andy's Hobby Headquarters. They were like my big diorama guys. But when I found Night Shift, his painting, marvelous. Everything he does is marvelous, but I associate kind of one thing to a person, and that's the thing that I associate with Night Shift. And so, yeah, I did see that, Martin. And yeah, it is that thing. And you think that, oh, I could just, do this, and because it's fun, right? You're just building models, something that you love. It's not that. It is making it so that somebody that's viewing it gets something out of it. I used to make videos because I just liked them, right? It's fun. I like videos. I grew up on MTV, was when I was in junior high. MTV came out. And so very impressionable. So for me, when I do videos, I'm literally making like a video like I saw as a kid to the song, because I love editing to a song. So I was making videos for myself. Then I understood that, well, there's got to be some value for the people that want to view your video. So now I concentrate on that. And so I really think of, okay, I do want to tell you how I do something, or a technique, or this material, or show you something that I've done that I'm very proud of. And I think I have a unique way of doing something. And so I want to get that across, but not just to show you, see what I did. It's not just show and tell, which is almost like what my old videos were. I want to show you how I did it so that you can take what I've done, maybe do parts of it and make it your own and build upon it like I've done on the wonderful people that inspired me when I first started. So yeah, that's the goal of these longer videos. And I think it'll be fun because I think this diorama in particular, the World War I trench, there's enough of it that I can look at all these different techniques. That's the fun thing about it. There's just so many different things that I did in it that almost kind of run the full gambit of what I want to do in dioramas. Now, the thing that hasn't transpired yet in this particular diorama is cobbles and stonework. I have not done with pink foam cobbles and stonework, and I really want to do cobbles and stonework. So sorry, I leave your question up there, Martin, because I swear I want to answer it, but I'm such a tangent person. I get talking, I'm just like, I'm talking about something else. But I did see it. I think Martin is a great guy, and I think that it seems like it has helped him a little bit. But he seemed very, very exhausted. And I think that is what I found after a year of doing videos straight. I was exhausted. It really pulls a lot out of you because there's just a lot to it that you don't see. But if you love it, which I do, which Martin does, you can tell that's what you need. That's the biggest deal. So I think it'll be fun. Scott says, I really enjoyed this video, Bill. Learned a lot and hope to learn more. Thank you for your work. Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate it. Scott, you're awesome. I really appreciate it. Martin says, so just choose your own pace and do what you feel comfortable with. Yeah, and that's it. I've got to do that, Martin. I don't know that I have kind of found my pace. I feel like I'm still so early on into this and so still learning, because I don't feel like I'm just learning how to do dioramas better. I'm also trying to learn the video thing and the live streams and all that kind of stuff, which is incredibly fascinating. I'd love to actually talk about that someday because it is really fascinating if you like that kind of thing. But it's just not the channel for it. But I have to learn all of that stuff, and it's like starting a new job. You're starting a new career. You're starting all these new activities and stuff, and it's exciting, it's fun. And I feel like after doing it, it's almost 5 years now, 4 years. I think after this long, I'm starting to feel a little bit comfortable with some of the things, that you need to do what I do. And that, I think, frees up me to think about, different things to do down the road. I've always contended that people that like to create, artistic people that feel that need to let that kind of stuff out, it's a choice, but you can do amazing things under stress and under strain. I think creative people aren't unique in that. I think humans just can do amazing things when you're stressed. I know that businesses like to induce stress to get higher performance out of their employees. If you didn't know that, I mean, that's part of their aim. By making you stress, you do sometimes put out more stuff. If you make choices not to, though, then it can be tragic. So stress is not necessarily bad. Night. See you, John. Have a good one, sir. Evening, fellow modelers. Paul, hello. Apology for lateness. No problem at all, Paul. But I've been signing off for about 15 minutes now. About a quarter of, I was like, yeah, we're done. And then, of course, I start talking again. But anyway, thank you very much, for, Paul, for coming in. Wheelins is here. Hello, Wheelins. Good morning or good evening your time. It's very late your time. It's about noon, or it's about 1 o'clock here in the afternoon. So thank you very much for coming in. So yeah, when we change, and I think this is maybe a result like from last week, some people are saying about when they come on, because in Europe, it's 1 hour later now that I come on, because we changed because of daylight savings. We talked about that last week. So yeah, we're just kind of coming to the end of it. But thank you very much for coming on. So yeah, today was really just about looking at or talking more about the video that I have coming out on Tuesday, and it is a longer form video. It goes in high depth and high detail about using pink foam and getting from that first stage of just raw pink foam all the way to kind of the primer stage, is what I think of it as, where you've got your sanded grout on it. That's kind of, the first stage of your sanded grout. That's kind of what I think in my diorama as the primer stage of building your diorama. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming in. And there will be a replay, obviously, that'll come up. And so if you have any questions, please continue to ask them. I will answer all of them. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I really hope everybody gets a chance to get to the bench. We do have the group build tonight. So John, I'll see you there, and other Patreon members. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. So thanks, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy weekend. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.